Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gavin Kotkin, and welcome to our webinar, Simple Steps to Becoming ISO Certified. And thank you for joining us today. Just letting you know that we've got quite a few people joining. We're just waiting for everyone to log in. So please sit tight while we wait for the session to begin. Looks like it might be a few minutes, so you still have time to grab a drink if you need. And we'll be beginning very shortly. Okay, it looks like we have enough people who have joined us, so we can make a start. If you missed the beginning, hello, my name is Gavin Kotkin, and welcome to our webinar, Simple Steps to Becoming ISO Certified, presented by Citation Group. Before we deep dive into the presentation, I just want to cover off some general housekeeping rules. If you have a question during the webinar, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try to answer them at the end of the presentation. You don't need to wait till the end. You can just type them throughout the webinar. This webinar will be recorded and you'll be sent a link after the session. We have quite a few people joining us today. So I'm guessing that you've come along to our webinar because you're interested to learn how you can elevate your business success through ISO certification. So we're really glad that you've joined us today. And hopefully by the time you finish the webinar, you should walk away with some useful information that will help you and your people on your management system journey. Yes, today's webinar will be presented by myself and my colleague Barry Fairman. Barry is our certification manager with Citation Certification. He's held senior leadership roles in engineering, product management, testing, management systems. He's also worked as a lead auditor in quality, safety, and environmental. And Barry's a management systems chapter chair of the member of the AACB, which is the Association of Accredited Certification Bodies. Welcome, Barry.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Gav. Yeah, appreciate it. Hi, everybody.
And I'm Gavin. I'm a business development manager with Citation Certification, and I work directly with businesses to help them uncover any gaps that they may have around their HR and safety process and find solutions that streamline their people management systems. Okay, so before we begin, I'll just explain to you a bit about who Citation Group is. If you have attended one of our webinars in the past, here's a little information about the Citation Group. But the group has been around for 30 years, working to help Kiwi and Aussie businesses by providing complete workplace compliance solutions that help create better workplaces. We do outsource HR solutions, safety management systems, ISO certification. And if you'd like to learn more about us, I would be pleased to talk to you after today's webinar, and we can work together on a bespoke solution. Citation certification, 30 years in the business, guided thousands of successful organizations through the complexities of certification. That includes ISO certification to NDIS compliance audits, as well as training. And these are the most common types of ISO certifications you'll come across, which deal with quality, environment, work health and safety, information security, asset management, food safety, and NDIS. So that's all from me. I'll hand over to Barry to go over through today's agenda. But essentially what we'll be discussing is tips to elevate your business success, people and safety systems, support, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end. So over to you, Barry. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gavin. Yeah, as Gavin said, we were going to cover those things on the topics there. Look, I think based on what I know about businesses, and I've been around for a while, as you might see when you look at me. I've been around the block a couple of times. Strategy and purpose. I mean, elevated businesses always want to know about their strategy, want to deliver strategy, want to know what their purpose is, their vision, their mission, and all those types of things. Most businesses want engaged employees, people who are part of the business, who are working together with the business, understanding what leadership wants, working with the leadership teams to deliver the best goods and services. Efficiency. I think efficiency is one of the classics. I mean, obviously, you want an efficient business, a productive business. I think obviously good leadership. There's no doubt that good leadership is a key success factor in any business, and we've all probably experienced good leadership, and maybe sometimes not the greatest leadership, but we certainly need a business, an elevated business has good leadership. There's no doubt. Good communication. I think that tends to go without saying. I think everyone wants good communication in a business, and it's certainly necessary. Internal, external communication. The quality of communication and its content, very, very important aspects in an elevated business. Analysis, certainly doing good business analysis is important. So understanding what the numbers are saying, understanding what the outputs are of your business, being able to analyse and evaluate those things. They're really important aspects of building a good business and an elevated business. Having good social responsibility. I think that, again, goes without saying in the modern era. Businesses strive to be good social citizens, corporate citizens, and take their responsibility very highly. I mean, it's a really important aspect of having a good business. Being able to manage changes. I think that's another hallmark of modern business. Changes come almost certainly if not every day, certainly in months and weeks. They're always apparent. We're always trying to improve businesses, and changes come from within and without the business. So external forces sometimes come to us where we have to change, or changes are made for us. But certainly we need good change management processes and understand how that works. I think businesses always want growth and success, either by organic growth, by merger and acquisition, successful strategies, delivering successful strategies and activities. Obviously, employee retention. Finally, safe workplaces. I mean, everyone wants to go to work in good condition and come home the same way. It's really, really important. Nobody wants to go home hurt or given a bad day at work. We don't want that. We want people to be happy going home. That's another hallmark of a great business. So considering that, thanks, Gav, considering that, the framework of an ISO management system, in those management systems that underpin certification, for instance, or just having a management system, these things, the framework is built to suit the business. The business requires, if a business requires a management system, it should match the business's requirements, not the other way around. Management systems are a great tool to ensure those things, like people management tools for better engagement, legal compliance, tracking evidence and things like that. And also you can get external input on your business if you've got a management system through audits for WHS or OHS, as it's commonly known, HR and ISO standards. Okay, so what does it look like, a management system? I've seen systems that look like the way they should and some the way they shouldn't. But basically, they've got to be fit for purpose. They have to suit the business itself. Strategy and leadership are very much part of that. Leadership should help design, if not design the system, but also include the people that use the system in that design. They've got to be simple, easily understood, and accessible. I mean, you get engaged employees if they can understand what the management system is about and have effective communication within that system. They need to be effective. They need to provide business growth, social responsibility and change management, those types of things we talked about before. They also need to be integrated, if they can be, with other systems in the business. So things like, if they're integrated properly with HR, with even finance, you can get good analysis, safe workplaces, and obviously one of the better outcomes too is employee retention. People want to stay, people want to work. It's a business of choice when it has a good management system to sort of chart the business sees as you go along. Okay, there are 7 main systems in relation to a management system, and these are kind of connected to the international standards. The international standards are actually based on good business practice. The people that put those standards together draw from what is known, draw from good outcomes within business and within organisations. So, in that context, we start with context. So what is the context of the organisation? Is it complex? Is it simple? Does it need complex systems? Has it got certain rules and regulations that it must manage? What sort of interested parties does it have? Is the governments and state governments and federal governments, are they interested parties? Obviously, clients. Sometimes competitors can be interested parties. They might want to purchase an organisation, or they might want to become a partnership with you. So there's a whole bunch of things in context. Obviously, strategic purpose and direction, where the business is going, what it wants to be. So accountability for leadership is really important. I mean, now about responsibility, that's something that can be shared, but we also know about accountability. Accountability generally can't be shared. Someone has to own that. So where does the buck stop? That's a common sort of situation in business, certainly in the modern era, that accountability stops with somebody. So good leadership understands that and introduces that and makes sure that it's managed properly. So obviously planning, so risk and opportunity. So what risks, what external threats are there? What internal risks are there? How are they managed? How do you plan to meet them? Bearing risk is something that all businesses tend to do. That's part of certainly being an entrepreneur. If you're an entrepreneur, that's the bearing of risk and uncertainty, and of course looking for opportunities, looking for new markets, looking for growth in the business or growth through the business, and so that's the planning phase. So with support. If you've got those things that you've begun with context and leadership and planning, you've got to have things that make it happen, things that actually support those directions and that strategic purpose. And then there's the operation, basically how you do things. So most businesses know all about how they do their thing. The base products and services, that's something that happens every day. So that's the operational part. And then, of course, if you've got a management system, you want to know if it's working. So you do performance evaluation on that management system. And that could include internal auditing, that could include management review. It could include a number of activities that monitor the way the system is performing and whether or not it's supporting your business. And then, of course, the last step in this is improvement, the reason for doing all of this. We want to start somewhere, but we always want to get better. We always want to continuously improve. And of course, if you use an ISO framework, it's actually built on those things, the things that we've just talked about, those 7 things, all those notes on the side there. You can have a really good blueprint to manage your organisation. Okay, so with context, I mentioned it before, we've got some sort of internal and external issues. We've got interested parties. So with internal interested parties, or the business itself, business connects with these groups. So employees, obviously, workers and employees, the board, unions potentially, contractors, top management team, all those characters in there. And then, of course, you've got people outside of the business or may sit outside of the business. They're still connected, but they're outside. So you've got your clients, consumers, you've got the media, legislators, special interest groups, community. So there's a whole bunch of characters that come into the context of the organisation. And then, of course, you can look at your strengths and weaknesses in a SWOT analysis with opportunities and threats. And, of course, strengths and weaknesses come from within. and opportunities and threats come from outside the business generally. The scope of the management system, if you have one, has to consider those things: internal and external issues. What's applicable? Who are your interested parties? What do they want? What do they need? What are their relevant needs? And what sort of products and services you deliver? In a management system based on an international standard, these things tend to be available and maintained as documented information, something that can be reviewed and can be obviously updated if it needs to be. Okay, I think Gavin's going to talk about this bit. I'll hand over to you, Gav.
Thank you, Barry. It's a great presentation so far. Sorry to interrupt, but we just want to pause for a moment. Citation has made this offer to anyone viewing this presentation that you can get up to 20% off ISO certification with Citation. If you scan the QR code, there's more information on how to do that. It's a great opportunity if you want to discuss your business compliance, understand if you have any glaring risks, and how we can share our knowledge with you. So we'd love to be able to assist you. You can just scan the QR code on the screen, fill out the form. If you're on your mobile, you can click through using the chat box below. But I'll just take a bit of time now. So those viewing can just click on the QR code, and then we'll get back to the presentation in a second. Okay. All right. Let's continue, Barry.
Thanks, Gavin. And of course, this is often close to people's heart, whether or not we've got leadership or whether we've got just basic management. I mean, leadership is a different terminology in the sense that it really, you can see how a leader does it. You can see what the old classic boss does from back in the old 20th century type management systems. So basically, leadership and commitment, this is where management demonstrates its leadership with respect to the management system. It really does start from the top, and in fact, the international standards that support some of the management systems make it very clear that leadership is accountable for delivery of good management systems. Everyone works within them, everyone works with them, but leadership own it. Leadership have that accountability. Leadership is to be involved in creating and implementing and amending policies and procedures. Of course, that's where it starts. It means that leadership needs to engage employees and workers in that process, but leadership leads it. It sort of goes without saying, but it's certainly not that top one there where it's the boss is just yelling out at people and making them do things. It really is being part of the group, part of the team, leading it, bringing it to a better place in terms of business growth and success, social responsibility, and corporate governance and things like that. Okay, planning. When you're planning for your management system, you have to consider these things. We talked about context and we talked about the requirements and relevant needs of interested parties, the scope of the management system, obviously risk and opportunities, and legal and other requirements. The legal requirements, whether or not we have a management system, legal requirements will play a part in your business. We're all accountable to those legal requirements, or we are responsible to deliver our legal requirements as a business. And whether or not you have a management system, but certainly management systems can help manage those things and understand your legal and other requirements and deliver the outcomes you need. Okay, support, we talked about that. Having the resources for the implementation and maintenance and improvement of your management system and your business. Competencies, all the training and experience you need, licenses, things like that, qualifications, education, and so on. The awareness, people being aware of policy, people being aware of objectives and how they can contribute to those things. Communication, what, when, with whom, etc., all the W's, and from whom as well. So that communication really is key. There's no doubt. I think every time a business goes through the process of reviewing how it works, that word will come up every time. Good communication, better communication, and better processes to communicate internally and externally. Having the right amount, this is really important, the right amount of documented information. Management systems don't have to have a lot. Some of them do, depending on the complexity of the business, but a lot of people get concerned about management systems and how you have to have bucket loads and bucket loads of documents. That's not actually true. You need the documents that you need, and if you've got an ISO management system, there are documents that you must have. You shall have those things, but they need to suit your business. So when a standard asks you to have a policy, that policy can suit your business. It has to have certain requirements in it, but it should be written in the way that your business understands it and the way your business needs it. So moving on to operation. So basically you need procedures, processes or procedures, and depending on what you do, that can determine how many you need and in what form. You don't need written instructions for every activity in your business. Again, that's something that people often see as part of management systems being problematic, in that you need a whole bunch of documents to carry out the things that you know really well. If you know your processes and business well, you may not need very much procedural documentation to support that. But you might need to monitor, measure, and control the activities. So those things to look at the outputs and the inputs of those operations, and of course across those things like procurement, the contractor arrangements, how you outsource or whether you outsource operations to other businesses, and obviously having emergency preparedness response built into your operation in the event of unforeseen accidents or incidents. Okay, performance evaluation. Just one back there. Yeah. Performance evaluation. Yeah, no worries. What frequency? What methods? So we have to determine when you do your performance evaluation of your processes or your management system. Anything that you do, you determine what frequency and method you use. You need to evaluate your compliance and take the appropriate action if you find something that's not going well. Understand your compliance status, know what makes compliance and maintain that knowledge of that. Obviously, retain records. Records are the documented information that tells you whether you've complied with a requirement. A very important part of management systems that you have certain records, again, the ones that are appropriate. You have to have the records that are related to training, to licensing, to whether or not your workers or employees have received certain training and awareness activities, consultation, things like that. There is an internal audit requirement in most management systems, certainly in the ISO ones. So that's an internal audit as distinct from external third-party audits that certification bodies do. So that's done by the business itself. And of course, management review. Management review is an evaluation method. It's not necessarily a meeting. It can be a meeting, but it can be spreadsheets. It can be any sort of check and balance activity, and how you review and retain that information on your management systems and the activities and processes that build that management system. And improvement, like we said before, the reason for doing this. I mean, businesses always need to improve. The pressures of modern business demand improvement. It is almost continual. We talk about continuous improvement. We determine what needs to be improved. We look at opportunities, and then we make the improvements to maximise those opportunities. I mean, most of the things we talk about in management systems are just really good practice, management practice that's been done for a very long time, certainly in the modern era. So if we have incidents or non-conformities, we look at corrective action to make sure that we fix those problems, and make sure, if we can, to make sure they never happen again. So we move on from those incidents, accidents, issues with non-conformity on product or service, and then we put things in place to make sure they never happen again. And that's really the essence of improvement. Making sure reporting processes and investigation methods are well understood and well maintained and well implemented. And of course, when you find something, review those findings and make the right changes. And again, make it suit your business and suit the requirements of your business. I think I should stress that throughout this. Management systems are for you. You aren't for the management system. Your management system works for you. It should match your business. It should always match your business. It can be unique to your business and probably should be. And you help design it and you help implement it. If you need help with that, there is assistance out there through consultancies and things like that. But in a lot of cases, it's really just being involved and making sure that you design it the way you want it. Okay, so certification, that's really my game. I am a certification manager, so I guess I should know about this sort of stuff. So stage one is a readiness stage of the certification process. So stage one determines whether or not you're ready for stage two, which is your certification part of the process. So stage one is a review of organisation and documents, the documentation that you've produced and that should be available in readiness for stage two. So things like policies, any procedural documents you need, the scope of the management system, internal audits, management review, records, those sorts of things make sure that you're ready for your stage two. So a stage two is an audit or an assessment, and stage two looks at whether or not you're doing the things that you said you're doing in stage one. So it's a compliance review. So stage two determines whether or not you can be recommended for certification. There's also a technical review of that recommendation, and if all things are well, certification is issued. So the certificates of the standards that you've decided to nominate in your management system and for your certification process, those things are issued at the end of a stage two, a successful stage two. And that frequency or that time frame in between stage one and stage two is variable. It could be a matter of weeks, it could be a matter of months. It just depends on your preparedness and it depends on the complexities of your system. So once that occurs, 1 year later, certainly it has to be done in the first instance, it has to be done within a year. So you'll have a surveillance audit, and that surveillance audit looks at that you've had your stage two, you've got certification in place, your management system is running, and we're going to come and have a look and see. It's not as big as a stage two audit or assessment. It's a review of how you've progressed in that first year. And hopefully all things are well and we can see the system is functioning, remembering that it's in its infancy. We're aware of that. We're aware that management systems begin somewhere. They're not all perfect. Most management systems are never actually perfect. Management systems are in a constant state of continual improvement and they get better and better over time. And the goal is to keep improving. So some businesses move fast in that way and others don't. But what matters is that in certification you have your surveillance. We can still recommend certification at that point if things are going well. If they're not, we can raise those issues with you and then you can correct them and get back to the certification process. So year two, a couple of years later, you have another surveillance. And these things are mandated. We don't make these rules. These are rules made by the accreditation authorities and through the International Accreditation Forum. JASANS is our accreditation body. And so there are certain rules and regulations that we have to apply, and one of them is continual surveillance. So year two, we have another surveillance. And again, all things being well, certification continues. If there are any problems get fixed and certification continues. So the idea is that certification is maintained if you have your surveillance audits throughout that 3-year process. And of course, at year three, at the end of that cycle, it's a 3-year cycle, all certifications, barring a couple, a 3-year cycle. And at the end of that 3-year cycle, we recertify the business against those standards. And the recertification is very similar to a stage two. It's a full audit of all elements of your system, those that are applicable. And when that happens, we start again. So it's a continuous cycle of certification, 3-year cycles, and every third year you recertify. You don't have to have another stage one, which is kind of cool because you don't have to go through that bit again. but you go through a recertification audit, which is very similar to a stage 2. Okay, so the benefits of certification, ISO certification. So in these saturated markets, ISO allows you to stand out from the crowd and get ahead. So that's a really important part here. The whole certification industry, through accredited certification, it's about better markets. It's about better exports. It's about better business. So competitive advantage is very much a part of that. And of course, you want to stand out from the crowd. So certification helps with that. You can lower expenses. I mean, companies with improvement programs in place, it's often about reducing costs and making process more effective and more efficient, which also reduces cost and gets better EBIT, better return, boosted profits, things like that. Risk management, it's definitely a big part of the certification process. It helps you understand your risks, understand your opportunities as well. I mean, risk is really both beneficial and adverse. A beneficial risk is an opportunity. An adverse risk can really give you problems if you're not careful. So making sure that you understand risk management, definitely a big part of ISO certification. So you get trust with your market, with the people that you're servicing, and basically you can show that you are managing those external, internal risks. It could be security risks with InfoSec, things like that, work health and safety risks, all those types of things. So access to new markets. The ISO certification through an accredited body is a global certification. So you can use it in any market, any international market. That was the whole intention of ISO when it first began. It's the terminology ISO isn't international standards organisation. It actually comes from a Greek word about being equal. So what we want is people to be able to provide their products and services across many markets, across all markets, certainly internationally, if that's where you want to operate. And it's well recognised in those markets. So the continuous improvement approach through ISO certification, the last part, of course, of ISO is the improvement part. And basically it helps you create that culture of continuous improvement and approach problems with solutions. We determine the problem. Often the solution is contained within the problem. And ISO standards can actually help you do that because there's requirements to look at those issues and come up with good problem-solving outcomes. Processes are not always perfect, and they can always be improved. And certainly that innovation piece is very much part of it. So attracting people, good people, top talent. So basically, when you're ISO certified, you do stand out in the crowd. We talked about that before, but it helps you stand out in the crowd with people that might want to work within your organisation, people that see your company as an attractive place to work because it's moving forward, because it's certified, because it has continual improvement processes. And in many respects, companies that really take this on board, it's almost a given that you'll have attraction to better talent, to more talent, to your business and your organisation. Obviously, increasing your customer satisfaction. I think that's a basic tenet of all businesses. You want to satisfy customers. You want to provide the things that customers want in the way they want them, deliver them on time, deliver them well. Basically, ensuring that your service or your product is providing that satisfaction to the people that want those things. I think that's a really important part of ISO certification. So, look, if you've got any questions, just don't hesitate. Pop them in the chat as we go along. Gavin and myself.
We've got a few popping up already, actually. That was a great presentation. Thank you, Barry. I learned something new off you every day. I didn't know ISO originated from a Greek word, so there you go. But also, it's just highlighting that the framework can address all those key elements of what a successful business is, and giving you a framework, the processes, the procedures. And I would imagine a lot of companies are already doing quite a bit of this
mm,
themselves, but not really being recognized.
mm, mm.
There's no marketing value, no certificate on the wall, no stamp of approval,
Mm,
no outside input or evaluation.
mm.
Um, so that was really good. Thank you.
Pleasure.
So we've just got a few questions popping in. I don't know if we'll have time to get to all of them, but if we don't, you can always feel free to reach out to myself or Barry. But just while we're waiting, I think I'll go through a bit about Citation Group. So, as we mentioned before, we're pretty much a one-stop shop for all compliance. We do workplace law. That's how Citation started off. We have our HR and safety software systems. That when you do get those systems, there's also a safety and HR audit done to identify gaps and see where you're positioned at the moment in terms of your compliance. We do NDIS and AQA audits. And then obviously the citation certification in terms of your independent audits, JASAN's registration, which is the governing body of ISO for Australia, New Zealand, and just in general regular reviews of your management systems. From HR point of view, this is another product that we have that Barry touched on, but we have expert HR advice for all businesses. So when Citation HR began 30 years ago, I think it was around 20 years ago, they wanted to be able to offer their services to small to medium-sized businesses, and they developed this platform. So it comes with a library of HR resources. It manages the employee's life cycle. There's compliance training. There's obviously the audit, as I mentioned. But I think what's really important is the advice line. So when you're a member or you have the Citation HR system, you can ring the advice line anytime. And I've been in our advice line area, and you're speaking with a qualified HR professional or you're speaking with a lawyer, and no one's sitting there Googling the answers. They are very informed on what's happening, and they can advise you in relation to any issues you're having. And if they don't have the answers, they'll go and speak with one of our lawyers if it's a very complex issue. And the promise that comes with that is if you follow their advice, and the issue does escalate, they will represent you at no additional charge. In the event that you lose that, they'll cover all damages. So we really back their advice line, and we've got the skills and the experience to back it. So that's included with the HR Citation HR model. And then a package that's can be attached to that, or it can be used independently, Citation Safety. That's a work health and safety management for workplaces. Again, it comes with the same safety advice line. There's a library of work health and safety resources. It has the software that helps you manage work health and safety within your business. So, and then obviously the audit is done at the beginning. So if you feel that from a compliance point of view for work health and safety, some issues are missing, it's a very handy tool to get you up to speed with compliance in general, either in your state or federal. But I'll just clarify that ISO work occupational health and safety ISO certification is something that is very different to this system. It does tick quite a few boxes, but it's by no means a complete ISO management system. There's still quite a bit that needs to be done, which is unique to most organizations. That's not covered in all of these systems. So yeah, I'll just remind you, we've got this offer going. So up to 20% off on ISO certification. If you haven't scanned the QR code, now's a good opportunity because we're going to be moving to Q&A very soon. So if you want to take advantage of these offers, now's the time. And we'll just give a bit of time so people can can do that, and I will bring up some of these questions. Okay. So, Barry, I'm just going to have a look here. So, yeah, one of the questions, what is the benefit of having external audits for management systems, HR, and occupational health and safety? There's a note there that a lot of people have internal audits. So, what's the advantage of that?
Yeah, look, external audits really are about an independent third-party analysis of your system. It's against internationally recognised standards. So an independent third party, that's Citation Certification, is an independent third party. It's like that, that second set of eyes, the set of eyes that you don't have. So we see the business in an objective way. It really talks about having objective audit and assessment tools that we use to look at the business in terms of the international standards. Basically, I think the clients themselves will understand that if you have independent third-party assessments, independent reviews, that it's good proof. It's proof that your business is running well. I think a good external audit will provide a comprehensive analysis and report of your business, and I think that has tremendous strategic application. If an audit is thin on content, I mean, it's a bit like a checklist. But if you have a full third-party audit, independent with expert auditors who are looking at your business through the filter of the international standard, which again is recognised throughout the world, that can be a great advantage to you. I think, it looks at things like people. There is a section in the standards called people, which is essentially the human resource, and so roles and responsibilities can be defined or can be reviewed to see if that's working through an independent audit. All those things that we look at are really an analysis to find out whether or not you've actually got systems in place that can provide compliance to an international standard or compliance to legal requirements. So I think that potentially answers it. I think, Gav.
Definitely. I would also add, I know our team, they're very experienced in certain industries. So you're not going to get, whether it be manufacturing or construction, they understand the industry. They've worked with similar businesses. They have a good idea of what to expect, what to look for. And that can also add value to the process.
Yeah, we certainly do have a broad range of experience within our auditors, and most of them have worked within multiple industry sectors. So that's always a really good help.
Okay. How does compliance improve employee retention? And I think this has to do with not only ISO, but also with having HR, work health and safety systems and processes
Yeah,
in place.
look, that's a really, really good question. I think, ISO management systems very much define inputs and outputs of processes. And there's no doubt that, all activities within the business, including employee aspects of, employment and how employees are given leadership and training and provision of resources to do their jobs well, to do their jobs, without a whole bunch of friction. I think that's really important. I think, ISO helps define or helps the client understand that roles and responsibilities are well defined. And, a person who is working in a business that knows what they need to do, isn't given stuff they don't need, but things that they need, helps retention. I think things like better onboarding, better outcomes for onboarding, better outcomes for bringing people into the business. Certainly ISO management systems are very much part of that, and compliance to them is really important. If you've got processes that have to be delivered and there's a way to check the compliance, we talked about monitoring and measuring and making sure that things were done properly in a management system. So the same thing applies to employee retention. There are certain things that employees need, and if they're done well, employees will know that the business is interested in their, better work environments and things like that. Compliance actually helps with better work environments. I think keeping workers safe, keeping a business that cares for the health and well-being of their employees and their workers is paramount in retention. I mean, if you don't care about people, I think people will just move on and find a place that does care about them. And I think systems encourage participation. ISO management systems encourage participation through leadership. Engagement of employees is a core tenet of those standards. Engagement, leadership is accountable for engagement of employees. So engaged employees, I think, are retained employees. I think they want to hang around if they're engaged. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great one. If there were to be a work health and safety incident, do regulators view compliance systems and independent audits favorably?
I would say yes, they do. That would be my first response. Of course, they do. Look, there are unfortunate situations in the world, and some of them are terrible outcomes in terms of in the world of work, and they happen from time to time. In most cases, these things are preventable. We know that, but when they do happen, regulators are often, if you've got something that's, you know, a, you know, a really high level incident, in the worst case, and we know pretty much what the worst case would be in a workplace accident or incident. In those cases, a management system that's in place, one that's certified and one that's managed well, it doesn't prevent an investigation. It actually helps the regulator investigate. It shows that the business already has a system in place, and in the unfortunate event of an incident, it is somewhat of a mitigation for that, in the sense that you've, at certain times throughout the business's history, the management system has produced really good outcomes, and there's evidence of that, particularly in a certified system, because you will have third-party independent reports and analysis of your system showing that this system generally consistently meets its requirements. Now, in the unfortunate event of a major incident, a regulator would see that favourably. It doesn't remove accountability. I need to sort of stress that in the case of a major incident, accountability still remains. However, it provides the regulator with policies, procedures to review, records of training, and that helps organisations' response to the investigation. You can't avoid the investigation; it will always happen. One of the things I might just add there, and we have experience in this, that where a company, an organisation has had a major incident, and the regulator, the state-based regulator, has provided what's called an enforceable undertaking. An enforceable undertaking for a business without a management system is to get one. And one of the issues there is, one of the important things to remember is, and it's not all the time, but the regulator can impose a cost. It can determine the cost, determine the price you will have to pay. Instead of levelling a fine at the business, they will determine a number that you will have to spend on your management system and potentially on certification. Why I say that, I've actually had experience in that, where a client has come to us with an enforceable undertaking and said, look, I need to build my management system, with the help of a consultant that I have to pay for to a certain level, and I also have to have certification. So that's an enforceable undertaking. So with a management system, you would generally not be in the firing line for an enforceable undertaking. So it is something that would be seen favourably. It certainly would potentially help mitigate any fines or levies against the business. It hasn't stopped the incident, but it certainly can help with the investigation and the subsequent actions taken by the regulator.
Good. Thank you, Barry. On to the next one. Where is the best place to start to get a snapshot of where a business is in terms of compliance and gaps?
Yeah, look, I think certainly in my experience, a good gap analysis conducted by, someone like Citation Certification, for instance. We can conduct gap analyses. That's not certification. That's a look at your system without any consideration to non-conformity. We can identify potential for non-conformity in a gap analysis, but there's no penalties applied in that sense. Like there's no non-conformance reports or anything like that. But the findings are made available, conclusions are made available to the prospect, the person who wants the gap analysis. It can be based on an international standard, that gap analysis. It can be based on workplace law. We can do those types of gap analyses at Citation. I think an internal audit of your own, get some training in internal audit, and I know that we provide internal audit training. That's one of the things that Citation Certification is allowed to provide under the accreditation rules. So your own internal audits, just have a look at your own system, do your own gap analysis. We can certainly help with the internal audit training. We can help with providing a gap analysis. So there's places to start. I think in just drawing back a little bit, the place to start is really understanding that you need a management system. You need to make a commitment to going down that path, regardless of certification and regardless of accreditation. A management system is a good thing. There's no doubt. There's plenty of statistics out there to show that management systems can provide sustainable outcomes for business, good profitable outcomes, good employee outcomes. All the bottom lines, all the good bottom lines, management systems can help with. I think if you're unaware of how management systems work, it's always good to seek some advice from an potentially experienced consultant, management system consultants. A certification body like Citation Certification cannot provide consultancy. That keeps us independent and impartial, and that's where we become very, very good, objective, independent third-party auditors. It's in a sense without fear or favour. So at the beginning, if we do a gap analysis, we can look at your system and tell you where the gaps are. It's a pretty common approach, but we can be very clear on what those gaps are in terms of a standard. If you're choosing to have a gap analysis against a standard or a suite of standards, we can be very precise about what you don't have and very precise about what you do. So that would be my recommendation. Start there, either with internal audit. Certainly understand your need for the management system, and I think we've covered to some extent in this presentation. There are good reasons to have one, so it's a good place to start. Is to think about the reasons for having it, and then seek help either through a gap analysis or through an internal audit of your own, and find out just where you're at. That's the best place to begin, is to know where you're at, and it doesn't matter if you're at the start. It really doesn't matter if you don't have anything. At least you've started.
Okay, that's a wrap. Thank you everybody for attending today. Thank you, Barry, for joining us, and that was very knowledgeable and informative. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. Yep, no worries. Thanks for attending.
No problem. And our QR code is up on the screen, so we didn't get a chance to answer all the questions. If you'd like to get in touch with us, we can answer any questions you may have around OH&S, HR, or ISO certification. So please feel free to scan the QR code and get in touch, and you can learn how we can help your business. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.